Welcome back to This Film Not Rated, a branch of the Drive-In Podcast Network. I'm Eric.
And I'm Curtis.
And we try not to rate movies we watched during the previous week. Particularly one. The world seems to think there's an objective truth to a movie. Everything is binary, as Chris Stuckman has said. It's good or bad. It's the greatest thing ever, or it's absolute trash. You've also heard Mr. Sunday Movies constantly rate movies, in jest as greatest movie ever, worst movie ever, because that's the way things seem to go. So, we're taking that idea to task, and we're failing miserably, which is a great thing to report. So, we have our gauntlet. We have our completely serious questions that you have to answer. And Curtis is in the gauntlet today trying to objectively rate whether or not Elemental from Pixar, Disney Pixar, is... So, Curtis, why don't you tell us about Elemental?
All right. Elemental is, of course, the newest Disney Pixar movie to be released. It is about a daughter of first-generation immigrants trying to live up to her father's expectations and taking on the family business, and when she runs into kind of an unfortunate set of circumstances that leads her down a rabbit hole into discovering what she actually wants out of life and thinking she has to sacrifice what she wants in order to repay the debt to her parents, or at least the kind of perceived debt that she has. And that's generally it.
Super light, fun family fare.
Yeah, it's not a super complex movie.
Yeah, no, it's delightfully straightforward and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Solve the water crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops, I fell in love. What am I gonna do? So, you ready to go through the gauntlet?
As ready as I'll ever be. We'll see.
Immediately tell me what should be added to this movie to make it better. That's question number 8 in our gauntlet.
I could have used a little bit more addition to the falling in love aspect of the film, because what it kind of does is it does the Beauty and the Beast thing, where in order to bridge the gap to kind of give you the feeling of falling in love, it has this kind of song sequence montage of all these different events that Ember and Wade are going on to kind of show emotional growth towards each other. And you get that with the Beauty and the Beast scene in the snow and the Am I Actually Feeling This Way song. I can't remember the actual name of it in Beauty and the Beast, but it's the same effect. But you don't. But outside of that little montage, you don't get a whole lot of.
Well, I mean, there's something so classic here that I could almost call it a trope. What about the concept of true love being love at first sight or whatever, and we're seeing once that spark is automatically lit, this is all just the proof, the hints that that's there.
That is fair enough.
Then that means there's more than one opinion,
and
shit. You're out immediately.
You did that on purpose, you bastard.
It's a very emotional movie.
It is. For as simple as it is, it touches on a lot of real world issues in a very not so subtle way, but also a kind of subtle way.
I mean, I don't even think it's subtle. It's not even a metaphor at some point. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
It's just, they are straight up immigrants. So.
Well, it's that, and it's the immigrant thing. It's the way that society looks at the fire people in general, how they're kind of sectioned off from the rest of Elemental City or Element City.
But again, it's almost so Zootopia, right?
Right.
You mentioned how it's kind of on the nose the way Zootopia is, but Zootopia, everything in it is metaphor. There is no straight up race. There are only 2 categories, prey and predator.
Correct.
And so it also equally works as much with gender as it does with race, because it's so not specific to what it is. It just takes it out of context and gives you a metaphor that helps you understand it. If this were live action, it would just be the story of immigrants and their treatment. It's not this speaks to the way immigrants are treated. This is how immigrants have been treated.
And I haven't seen this movie yet, but just like based on what I've heard descriptions of, there's this like I want to say like an early '90s movie called Mississippi Masala, starring Denzel Washington and someone else about. I have it right here. I'm not going about that right now, but it's about two minority families finding each other to my memory, and like you have a whole romance plot. I need to watch it at some point, but like it's kind of that whole thing.
There's always like one or two shades of Romeo and Juliet because
right,
but there's nothing about like there's nothing about the water tribe who's like I hate the fire tribe, you know.
No, they're just like subtly, inadvertently insulting Ember. I get.
Yeah,
and
they're like, I don't know. They wear their hearts on their sleeves, and so they just stumble. You know,
yeah,
like that's
like
it's adorable.
It's like no ill will meant, but and
Absolutely.
it's like they notice only after they've said it that they've said something offensive, and you can instantly see that they regret what they said.
Yep. So, what made you want to watch this?
Like straight up, the initial trailer, like the teaser, which nothing in that teaser actually shows up in the movie, just like hit so many chords that reminded me of Zootopia, and that's one of my favorite animated movies. I just like that, like instantly, I thought this was going to be something similar but different enough that I would want to see, and for the most part, it is.
There's been a lot of criticism lately on Pixar having been the pioneers early on with Toy Story of like breaking tradition with Disney.
Mm-hmm.
They made their own list of things to avoid that are in Disney movies when they made Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to have a villain. They didn't want to have musical numbers. They didn't want to have, so many different aspects. And the notes they got back, the first round of notes they got back on either the script or the early screenings was, you need to have a villain. You need to have musical numbers. You need to have, like it was so part of the machine. That's why they added Sid to the movie. Sid wasn't originally a thing, and that's why Randy Newman's score is the way that it is.
Okay.
So they could check off those boxes without really checking off those boxes.
Right.
And they were doing stuff you'd never seen before, like between A Bug's Life and Finding Nemo and Monsters Inc. and they had these core stories, but after a while, people have been really criticizing Pixar for not really being ahead of the game in a lot of ways, and especially with Across the Spider-Verse having just come out and knocked animated movies out of the park,
right.
It was something to be concerned about, that how much are they pushing, with Luca and with Soul, both of which I really adore those movies. I think Luca's, I think Onward is extremely underrated, but
that's Onward. Yes.
You kind of say, oh yeah, that one. And that is kind of the vibe recently with Pixar. Oh yeah, that happened. Luca, oh yeah, that happened. People say Raya and the Last Dragon, and that's the closest I think you can get with Disney animated to people going, oh yeah, that happened.
Right.
Moana, whoa, it's getting a remake, so I was really thought Elemental was just going to be, I thought you were right. I thought it was going to be kind of like Zootopia. I thought it was going to be yet another Pixar movie about a kid whose family has a tradition, Kung Fu Panda. You're supposed to live one way, you go out to live another way. So DreamWorks has done this before. You have Finding Nemo. The dad is like, you have to live in a certain safe environment. You can't go live by the dangerous laws of the outside world. And the kid goes out and lives by the dangerous laws of the outside world. And the dad learns to be different. There are seeds of that in this movie, but it so owns the narrative of generations across immigration. The generation that never left, the generation that was moved, and the first generation born in a new location. Right. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful, man. Jarrison, if you're listening, that was for you. It was like, so I wanted to see it because it was the next one, but I was honestly kind of like, I don't know about going to see this. And I'm so glad that I did, because the stuff that I liked about it, like obviously they're geniuses with the work that they do visually, and having the characters interact with one another, whether they be cloud lightning person, fire person, water person. The little nod, this one line that would have been one of our questions, is your favorite line in the movie, is that they altered their chemistry by touching.
Yeah.
Like, I'm honestly hard pressed to find anything wrong with the movie.
It's tough. Like mostly, like most of the things that I can think of would be like just like little nitpicks here and there, but like nothing like shattering.
Like, I kind of get what you're saying about the romance, right? But at the same time, they make a point to have this little tradition in their culture that shows whether you're a perfect match. And so they kind of reinforce that point I was talking about, which is they're sort of fated or matched well. So their love exists. They're just discovering it.
Right.
And I loved the way that it was handled, where when she sort of openly accepts about herself that she loves this person. And then, we're a spoiler podcast, by the way, so... Then she hardcore says, everything that you are, like, you're not worth it to me to abandon my life and that. I felt that for a lot of reasons. There was something so important about them appreciating one another's strengths, and that they're going to build a unique new life, and for the dad to come out and talk about what the true value of embracing like a new culture and moving somewhere is, and that it's for her. Like, again, it's a movie, not just those characters, that wears its heart on its sleeve. And Pixar always takes a lot of unnecessary cop-out criticism for like tugging your heartstrings and like doing cheap tricks to get away with emotions. But I thought this was well earned, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't know why. I don't understand why. Maybe this is just about me, and I shouldn't talk about it on an internet thing. But when the protagonist noticed that they're at the cloud game, and he noticed that the player was having a hard time, and he geared the crowd up into cheering for him. Right. And it improved his game. That hit me hard. And then he does a literal wave through the crowd. Yeah. What?
Yeah, no. There's this thing that I've been mulling around in my head, because like since I first saw this on Friday, I saw it again today just to get another look and just make sure that my initial thoughts weren't skewed in any way. And it's hard to not compare it to Zootopia, but if Zootopia in all is about understanding, which I think it kind of is, this is on the verge of acceptance, which is like a very different kind of thing, because it's accepting one's culture, it's accepting who you are, it's accepting the circumstances of the other person beside you. It's a medley of different things that fall under the acceptance umbrella. Understanding being one of them.
I'm going to use like an even arguably stronger word and say it's blessing.
Yes.
It's endorsing. Like, it's not even just accepting or understanding. It's actively rooting for that.
Yeah. Which that's kind of what got me, and what I was hoping for. Like, the scene that kind of hit me the most is like earlier in the movie, you get the story about how when Ember's parents left the home country, the heartland. And he gave his father the greatest honor, the big bow, and he didn't return it back. How much that hurt, and kind of like low-key ashamed the father, and kind of almost doubting whether what he's doing is right or not. And then having Ember at the very end give him that same bow, and him having the opportunity to return it in a way that his father never did, that kind of hit me.
And an added layer on top of that, that gesture did not lose any value just because his father did not grant him that respect.
Correct.
That it's, for the father character, that it still meant that much to him. Speaks volumes to what it must mean to take a risk like moving your family into a land that potentially doesn't accept who you are and how you want to live.
And like, and you see like glimpses of this throughout the whole movie. Like of course with Wade, and like the first spark that you get with Wade is after he's already turned in all the citations that he wrote in for the fireplace that's going to get it shut down. And on a second viewing, you see that initial spark when Ember's light is shining through his water, and it's like appearing on the wall. He gives this like intrigued ooh sound, and then he turns around, and like that's the start of it for him. And then Ember, the start of it for Ember is that the water is at the sports stadium after the wave, and her being in awe and inspired that he's able to connect to so many people when it's an ability that she lacks for whatever reason.
Yep.
So like you get these traits that are diametrically different to the character that attracts them to the other one. It's the whole theme of opposites attract that like this whole thing is built off of.
Yeah. So what would make you watch it again?
The visuals, the emotional pull. Like there's like a lot that would bring me back. That would bring me back to watch it. In fact, I already went back to watch it, like I already said before. So
this is a version of this story that I would personally prefer. Like if I wanted to look at something that was about family and about, earning your identity, and there are so many movies that tackle this subject matter in so many different ways. This is one I would go to. I know there was an interview with a creator by NPR who spoke about what it was like to be the child of an immigrant, and like what informed a lot of what's going on. Like I can imagine this is informed by a lot that's worth looking into. But you know what? We're here to not rate a movie. And so, you'd want to watch it again. I would want to watch it again. So, thank you all for listening. We are This Film Not Rated, a branch of the Drive-In Podcast Networks. So you can check out more from them at www.musiccitydrivein.com. I'm Eric. You can find me at High Contrast FLM on Twitter.
And I am Curtis. You can find me on Twitter at TalkAnimeGA, where I'm going to try to start posting more regularly about movies that we don't talk about on here, but I still want to say something about. So keep an eye out for the regular small snippet of a movie review here and there.
Yeah, this was a big week for movies being stacked that are worth saying something about. But what are you going to do?
Right.
What are we going to do? Like some kind of weird podcast that does multiple movies in one? That's a burn on Matt and us. I feel bad about that last comment. So you can find us at TFNRCMEL on Twitter for this podcast. Give us your suggestions. Give us your thoughts. Interact with us. Tell us to shut up. I don't really care much. But you know what? I think you'll find that there's more in common and that we'll connect in a way that is elemental. Oh, I said that.
Ooh,